Welcome to Vintage SF. I'm Richard Rempel, and today we're going to do a triple header of Vintage SF. We're going to start with Rockets in Ursa Major by Sir Fred Hoyle, astronomer, and his son Geoffrey Hoyle. Then we're going to take a look at Friends That Come in Boxes by Michael Coney. And lastly, Robert A. Heinlein, Orphans of the Sky. So let's start with Rockets in Ursa Major. Now, I've read 3 other books by Sir Fred Hoyle before. They were The Black Cloud, very early in my channel's history, and this one sticks with me. I think this one really is kind of a classic of Sir Fred Hoyle. Then there is this one. I believe this is the first time that he was in collaboration with his son, Fifth Planet. I liked it, but a little bit less than The Black Cloud. And then I read a short story collection called Element 79, which once again I liked a little bit less than Black Cloud and Fifth Planet. So what's going to happen here? Is it going to continue that trend, or will it be better? Well, I'd like to start off with reading the back of the book. It is the early 21st century. Man is seeking signs of life elsewhere in the universe, but all exploratory ships have been lost without a trace, except for DSP-15. 30 years after leaving Earth and given up for lost, DSP-15 suddenly appears on radar screens at the space station at Mildenhall, England. Her crew has been frozen to prevent aging, and as the ship settles to a landing, Dr. Richard Warboys eagerly waits with other scientists for word of what DSP-15 has found. But there is no crew, only a message scratched into a metal surface signed by the captain. If this ship returns to Earth, then mankind is in deadly peril. God help you. What a great blurb. It really draws you into the book. I was looking forward to this one. That lost ship returning, DSP-15, happens right away at the beginning of the novel. That mystery, that intrigue draws you in immediately. But that's when it starts to stall. I find that the Hoyle's books are sort of gentlemanly. Sometimes people call things cozy catastrophes with some of the English writers. This one sort of has that stock English humor, perhaps from the 1940s and 50s that you might see in films. And it is peril that is almost underplayed. Discovering a message scratched into a metal plate on a spaceship that has returned without its crew, that's a really spooky setting. But it's somewhat downplayed by this cozy atmosphere that's provided. And it only takes a chapter or 2 to really discover what this peril is. And from then on, it's about interstellar war. War that has come to Earth. Exciting, right? Not really. I found it getting more ludicrous, and I found that the peril just really wasn't matching up to the hook of that blurb. And I'm sure that the science must be there for the solution that the Hoyles came up with to defeat this alien threat that they were facing, but I still found it to be lacking. I was very disappointed. I give Rockets in Ursa Major 3 out of 10. I would skip this one if I was you. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to read more Hoyle. I have some hope for his work, but I seem to be on a downward trend right now, and I don't think it's going to get any lower than this one. So I'm 0 for 3 right now. Let's take a look at the second one. Friends Come in Boxes by Michael Coney. This has an intriguing cover. As you can see, there is a brain in this box. Reading from the back of the book. The problem of immortality was solved in the 21st century. At 40, your brain was transferred to the head of a 6-month-old child. Thus, you gained another 40 years of active life until you could do it all over again. But then the birth rate fell, and a growing horde of brains waited in friendship boxes for host bodies. And on the sidelines, a rebellious minority fought the system, seeking to raise their children in freedom to live a normal life. Inevitably, the factions move towards confrontation, a day of final reckoning. So we literally do have brains in boxes, friends in boxes, waiting for a new body. This is more of a satirical novel. It is a completely unrealistic look at immortality. When a brain leaves the 40-year-old body and enters the 6-month-old child, what happens to the child's brain? It is overwhelmed. So you're really creating a genocide of your children for older people who are seeking immortality. Now, this really isn't a novel. It's more of a fix-up novel of short stories with some bracketing elements written for this book. It reminds me of Other Days, Other Eyes by Bob Shaw. Both of these came out close to the same time. I'm guessing that it was somewhat of a similar structure that writers from the UK would use to bring their short stories to life by giving them a framing mechanism that could connect the stories. And there are some characters that cross from story to story. One of the things that happens is when you reach 40, you need to go into another body, and if there's not a body available, well, then of course you could go into the box. But you could also choose to go into an android child, and then that android child would grow up. I'm not sure how they mechanically do that. And at 40, that android then would have its brain go into another android. One of the benefits of this is the android bodies were perfect, whereas the human bodies had imperfections, and you never know exactly what you might get. One of the ways the society controlled its population is that if you committed some sort of a major crime, they would not allow you to have your brain transplanted at age 40. You would die a natural death. I'm not sure if natural is the right word, but I think you understand what I'm saying here. So this basic structure to the society makes for some interesting stories. What if you've committed a crime? If they haven't discovered you yet, can you find a way to get your brain transferred before they discover you? What if there is a mistaken identity of the brain that's in the box or the brain that's in a body? What happens if no more children are being born? What happens if parents don't want to give up their child? They want to see that child develop naturally, something that this society doesn't allow. Now, I said this was a satire. It's not one of those hit you over the head type of satires. It's a situation that allows you to examine potential things within society. There's some interesting and entertaining situations that develop in this book as well. And it leans a bit towards horror when you think about people walking around with a brain in a box as a friend. That compassion that they would show to that brain is something that was admired within the society. Often, the brains would be all stored within this room. Can you imagine a room of brains in boxes that are just waiting for new humans? Could be years. I give Friends Come in Boxes a solid 7.5 out of 10. I look forward to reading more Michael Coney. So now we are 1 out of 3 with one more to go. Orphans of the Sky by Robert A. Heinlein. This is definitely a fix-up novel, a combination of two stories brought together in a novel. In a way, these two stories were a serial that was published in the magazine Astounding in 1941. The first one was called Universe in May of 1941, and the second one was called Common Sense, published in October of 1941. Let's start with Universe. Universe is a story of people who are in a universe that they don't exactly understand, and it seems to be an insular universe. Heinlein doesn't hide the fact that this is actually a spaceship, a generation ship. Take a look at this first page of the story from the May 1941 magazine. A Nova story of the strangest world in space, a world where men could not learn the laws of nature for they did not apply. And in italics it says, the Proxima Centauri expedition, sponsored by the Jordan Foundation in 2119, was the first recorded attempt to reach the nearer stars of this galaxy. Whatever its unhappy fate, we can only conjecture And the quote stops there. It's from The Romance of Modern Astrography by Franklin Buck, published by Lux Transcriptions Limited. So we, the reader, already know what is coming here. This is a story of discovery. What has gone wrong on this ship? Why has their civilization broken down within the ship? Is there a way to rediscover who and what they are? I came to this novel because people recommended it after I'd read Nonstop by Brian W. Aldiss. The basic concept is the same. People who don't know they're on a generation ship, discovering the purpose of their world, of their universe, and discovering the outside universe. This was a strong entry, and I can see how it was very influential from 1941. The second story is Common Sense, and this one feels more like a pulp story. I haven't mentioned it yet, but there is a character that is a two-headed man, two different characters in one. And then there is a very mutated character who has a lot of strength, and you can see him here with this knife. Factions have festered on this ship, and there is basically a civil war here in this second part. Will any of them live to survive this generation ship? To find a home, either within or without? This was not as strong as the first section. It felt more like a pulp action story than a thoughtful science fiction story. It's like Heinlein had mapped out all the interesting ideas in his first novella, and this second novella, the editor had just said, dial up that action. I want to see some fights. So, being a book of two parts, I found the first part, Universe, to be strong. I would say it's a 7.5. The second part, though, it really devolved into something which wasn't as appealing. And I'm not sure that I really buy the way it ends as well. I give it a 5 out of 10. So combining the two, let's be on the generous side. I'll say it's a 6.5 out of 10. So that means we have the good, the bad, and the mediocre. But I think that it must be said that the ideas within here were very influential going forward. So have you read any of these three books? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep reading.